Hello guys and welcome to Vlogging Project. It's Tony here, your favorite YouTuber. Today I have two very similar phones which are very different in terms of hardware, but the overall experience is pretty much the same, guys. The Pixel 8 over here and the Pixel 8a. Both of those devices were overpriced at launch. I think it was £700 for the Pixel 8 and 500 for the Pixel 8a. 1 year down the line they were discounted at half the price, and currently we're looking at those devices second-hand on eBay, both of which can be had for about £200 or even less if you get lucky. So which one should you buy? Let's find out, guys. Now in front of me, the white one in the white corner, I have the Pixel 8a. I'm going to take this case off and I'm going to compare the hardware components, guys, of these two phones, because there are differences that I think are important and you should be aware of. Now, they look very similar. They're very similar in terms of size and weight. I have screen protectors on both of those phones, tempered glass, and they're both 197 grams, which is a little bit on the heavy side considering these are relatively small devices, 6.1 and 6.2 inches over here. But the main difference is you can see that the 8A is a little bit more rounded. This one isn't. The main difference, guys, is the quality of the back panels over here. You have plastic over here and you have glass over here. And in case you're thinking, oh, of course glass is better because it doesn't scratch that much and because blah blah blah, you're wrong. Now in this particular case I'm going to explain why. In the Google Pixel 8, the back glass is super glued to the frame. So this is a very similar design to the Apple devices, which means that if the back glass cracks, you don't have any options of replacing that, guys. You can't just like lift it off and put another glass. No, it is way more complicated than that. And in case you want to change the battery or anything like that, you have to lift off the screen first and after that tear the phone down in this way. On the Pixel 8a it's much more repairable, guys. How do I know? Well, because I replaced the main board on this one for a particular reason, but nevertheless this is plastic, it's extremely easy to come off, and you have access to the main board, to the battery, to absolutely everything, guys. And if you just want to replace the screen, you can just lift off the screen, replace it, put it back together. It is really easy in terms of repairability. Now, what's the same in these two phones? 128 gigs of storage with just 8 gigabytes of RAM, guys. Google Tensor G3 SoC, which upon release it was supposed to be a competition for the upcoming Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. It turned out that it's a competition for the Snapdragon Gen 1. I mean, it's nowhere near the powerhouse that Google said it would be. I'm going to put these two boxes on the side, by the way, because we're getting into the serious stuff over here. And of course both devices, the maximum storage option is just 8 gigs of RAM, and since you have no option for expanding the RAM with the software, sometimes you're going to struggle when it comes down to heavy multitasking and games. But day-to-day performance is pretty much the same on both devices, guys. I would say the fingerprint readers, let's test them out quickly. Let's see what we're dealing with over here. I would say the fingerprint readers are mostly the same. In terms of the face unlock, let me have a look. Boom. Pretty much the same, guys. Pretty much the same. What difference have we got in terms of gaming? Oh, by the way, I have to set up both of those screens at the same brightness, otherwise it's not fair. There we go. I would say this one is a little bit more bright. So, yeah, do they look the same? More or less, more or less. Let's roll with that. Now, have a look at this. The 3D Mark benchmark, guys, and over here we have a little bit of a different results. As you see, the curvature is very similar. However, I'm getting different results. Over here the best loop score is 2500, almost 2600. Over here 2200, which pretty much means that Google intentionally throttled the GPU on the Pixel 8a just a little bit, guys. And as you can see over here, have a look at the percentage. Over here lost 11% of battery. Over here lost, well, pretty much, how much is that, 8% or something like that. 43 degrees, 44 degrees, pretty much the same. I have no scientific, proof that they throttled the GPU, but it looks to me that this is definitely the case. Now, in terms of sound quality, none of them have 3.5mm jack. I'm not going to do a sound test now, but take my word for it because I've spent enough time with these phones. Some people complain about too much bass on the 8A, and indeed, when you hear some voice, sometimes the voice is not super clear, guys. Where over here on the Pixel 8, the voice sounds absolutely amazing, guys. So I would say that overall there is a little bit of a difference, but overall the the speakers of the Pixel 8 are a little bit better, guys. They're a little bit better. In terms of software, it's pretty much the same. It's the latest and greatest by Google. Still missing double tap to wake. Thank God I have the toolbox installed. Otherwise, you're missing features. So yeah. And finally, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the cameras, guys. Actually, hold up. Before we talk about the cameras, there are two important things. The screens. The screens, 6.1 inch here, 6.2 inch here. Well, honestly, the screens look very, very similar, if not absolutely the same to me. The maximum brightness is very good indeed. HDR colors and everything is pretty much spot on. So I can't really say which one is better. However, there's a little bit of a difference in the battery life of those devices, guys. I'm going to show you my screenshots over here on the screen, but basically I'm getting on average about half an hour battery life more out of the Pixel 8a over here, guys. Sometimes 5 to 6 hours of screen on time in 4G usage, and let's say 7.5 hours of usage on Wi-Fi only, but I'm getting a little bit more every single time on the Pixel 8a compared to the Pixel 8, most probably because of the supposed GPU downgrade, let's put it this way, downclock. But I'm not 100% sure, but it's a little bit different, guys. A little bit better battery life on the 8a. Recharge times are absolutely shocking on both of the devices. So I think on the 8a is even slower, to be honest with you. I think it's even slower. Let me check my cheat sheet very, very quickly, guys. Oh yes, it's actually slower. So in 15 minutes I'm getting 28% on the Pixel 8 and only 20% of the Pixel 8a, guys, which is crazy. So hour and a half total charge time on this one and 2 hours on the 8a, which is ridiculous. And now I'm gonna keep my cheat sheet open because it's time for the cameras. Now the megapixels might be the same, but the camera experience is a little bit different. Now when it comes down to the selfie cameras, over here on the Pixel 8 we have a 10.5 megapixel Samsung S5K 3J1 camera, and which the photos look a little bit over sharpened, to be honest with you. They don't look that good. And over here we have a selfie camera of Sony IMX712, which is too soft for a 13 megapixel camera, guys. Simple as that. At the back of those devices, over here on the Pixel 8, we have a rather unimpressive and a little bit too wide ultra wide camera, Sony IMX386 sensor, which is 8 years old sensor, guys, and it just doesn't get the job done properly. You can have a look at the example over here. On the Pixel 8a we have the same camera sensor as the selfie camera, Sony IMX712, and actually it does a pretty good job as a super wide angle sensor. I'm not sure why that is. It doesn't work properly as a selfie camera, but it works properly as a super wide angle. But hey ho, there we go. And the main difference, guys, the main camera. On the Pixel 8 we have a, I wouldn't say custom, but Samsung G and V sensor. The only phone that uses this sensor is the Vivo X80 currently, and this sensor is pretty much amazing, guys. Some absolutely amazing photos from this phone. If you want to see more pictures and some other photos, have a look at my full review over here. But absolutely stunning main camera, guys. However, on the Pixel 8a, we have a proper flagship Sony IMX797 camera, the same sensor used in the ZT Nubia Z50, which I recently reviewed, and I was absolutely stunned by the quality. So although it is not as great as the main camera on the Pixel 8, it's still very good and definitely holiday approved, guys. So overall, when looking at both of those phones and the value that they represent at the moment at about, I would say, £200, let's say £200, that's our budget, £200 to buy a decent one with a box, guys. Which one would I go for? Well, none of this would be my first choice simply because of the super slow charging, guys. But apart from that, if you really don't mind the charging, I would go for the Pixel 8a simply because of the a little bit better battery life and the repairability of the of the back cover of the battery and everything. Things are going to get super complicated if you manage to crack the back cover over here, which you don't need these complications in your life, guys. So overall, for me, all things considered, I would definitely go for the Pixel 8a, because as I said, better battery life, better super wide angle camera. The selfie camera is equally not good. Good enough back sensor over here, the same software. The speakers, although not that clear in terms of voice, they're pretty good in terms of music, so that's not an issue for me. So overall, guys, this is my option. And overall, I think the general feeling, the roundness over here of the Pixel 8a is just a little bit better than the 8 over here, guys. I like it a little bit more, and I think the material is very different as well, because as you can see, I have absolutely no scratches over here on this golden material. I think it's aluminum or anything like that. And over here you can see that they definitely just spray painted, this part over here, and you can see some rubbing over here around the speakers and the charging, where there's absolutely nothing over here, guys. So yeah, these are my thoughts about those two devices. If you have a different opinion than mine, if your experience is different, I would love to hear it in the comments section below, guys. Let me know what your experience is. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Adios.